The air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and rose, a heady perfume cloying the senses as I stood frozen, knife poised above the pristine white icing of an intricately crafted birthday cake. The flickering candles cast an eerie, wavering light upon the surface, illuminating the tiny crystals of sugar that adorned the confection. They sparkled and twinkled, yet my heart drummed a dissonant rhythm against my chest, an echo of disbelief mingled with betrayal. I had meticulously organized every detail of this night, intending it to be a celebration of love, nostalgia, and the passage of time, the passing of our 40 years together. The grand chandelier above me trapped the cold glow of white light, refracting it in 1,000 tiny patterns across the mahogany dining table, an emblem of our shared life and ownership of this beautiful home. It was the very space where I had nurtured not just my husband's ambitions, but our dreams of a gilded future. How many countless evenings had I sat through bland conversations, stirring mac and cheese on our stove while he dove into elaborate discussions with his business partners. I had savored those simple meals, laden with sacrifice, believing it was a necessary burden to share the load of growing his empire. I would proudly smile as he dined on gourmet meals, his hungry ambitions fed by the sweat of my labor where I had settled for second best. I wore the label of supportive wife, like a badge. I still remember the taste of hasty lunches, noodles tossed together with a pinch of salt, but always set down beside him when he returned home triumphant, victorious for having charmed yet another investor. As I hovered, knife trembling, my eyes slipped past the cake to the heart of the festivity. The crowd, raucous and ebullient, housed within walls adorned with family photos that whispered of our love. Their laughter rang sweet and hollow, but in my chest was a weight, a shadow-slick doubt gnawing at my insides. Why is he laughing? I thought, my heart sinking lower still as I detected her. The girl, young, wide-eyed, and breathtaking, was draped over his shoulder, a bright golden light in comparison to my muted pastels. She wore his gifts upon her neck, my old sapphire pendant resting between her collarbones, its once familiar presence now a taunt as it glinted with her laughter. I could almost hear it, the casual ring of betrayal that punctured the joy around us. My husband had taken everything I built for him, my hopes, my sacrifices, and repackaged them as gifts for a fleeting affection that hadn't yet learned to appreciate the weight of a diamond. And then, as if an alarm had sounded, the very fabric that entwined our lives, the mask fell, revealing the truth beneath. It wasn't just betrayal, it was cruelty wrapped in flamboyant celebration. The truth crashed down around me like shards of glass spilling from the cake I'd baked with a mother's love, leaving despair sharp and raw. Something inside me snapped as my fingertips turned white around the cold metal handle of the knife. The words slithered into my mind before I could sanction them. Destroy him. I had built him up from nothing, and now he stood next to a child, just at the cusp of adulthood, dining on the remnants of my lifetime investment. The realization coiled around my heart like a poisonous snake, squeezing unbearable rage from the depths of my soul. I locked eyes with him across the room. His smile was wide, misguided. He believed he could charm the room while I clung to the edge of sanity. I inhaled slowly, the taste of iron filling my mouth as I forced the breath through trembling lips. I had sacrificed too much to let this end on such a note of empty celebration. No, a plan began to bloom, a dark seed sprouting tendrils of revenge amid the rubble of my dreams. "Happy birthday," I managed to croak, my voice cracking through the quiet fabric of chaos. My feigned sweetness bore a dagger hidden behind a smile, concealed within the layers of pretense he'd taken as affection. A moment of hush fell over the room as eyes shifted toward me, the knife highlighted precariously between my trembling hands. "Are you okay, darling?" he said, a mask of faux concern plastered over his features. But I saw through him, how vacuous he truly was. My heart thundered, but I pressed forward past their shocked gazes, picking up my resolve where my husband had shed it. "I hope you enjoy the cake," I said, and the words tasted bitter on my tongue. "After all, it represents everything you've devoured." The gasps moved like ripples through the audience, but I pressed on, not letting the tremor in my voice betray me. With a flick of my wrist, I set the knife down. The thud against the plate echoed like a drum roll as I turned my back, striding toward the door, my heart racing, blood rushing through my veins in sync with the growing pulse of karaoke laughter behind me. The air outside was a rush of cool liberation. I allowed myself a breath, gathering the fragments of steel resolve that glimmered nearby. I'd make him pay. The following days morphed into an elaborate, twisted plan, a tapestry woven from threads of deceit and betrayal. My fingers brushed over glossy pages of contracts as I conspired with my lawyer, carefully collecting evidence of his misdeeds. I imagined his face when caught unaware, the tinted confidence cracking like eggshells underfoot. I already knew the way his voice would falter, and my heart thrummed with sweet revenge. Days turned into a blur of paperwork and determination. I gathered statements and filings that would paint him as a greedy fool, pulling at the seams of his image. The beach house, luxurious and extravagant, specifically built upon the back of my efforts, crouched poised to become an emblem of his demise. I would lock those assets down before he could sow even more seeds of destruction. As I sat amidst the organized chaos of documents, the smell of freshly printed paper merging with the sterile scent of disinfectant from my lawyer's office, I felt a surge of exhilaration regulate my heartbeat. I wouldn't just be a victim. I would become a title. The woman he underappreciated, the mother he exploited, the wife who had provided him. Little did he know the real power rested not in his fists, but in the fine print of reality I was crafting. Finally, the day arrived. I secured the meeting inside a stuffy conference room, the dance of cold air from overhead vents mixing with anxiety rippling through my body as I tapped my fingers against the black table. His arrogance had led him to believe he could flit freely, unbothered, like a damn butterfly who had outgrown its cocoon. But today, I held the shears ready, the documents trembling under my fingertips like tiny soldiers awaiting a war cry. As he stepped through the door, swaggering in the fine lines of a tailored suit and his usual charm, my heartbeat quickened. I could tell he didn't suspect a thing, didn't suspect that everything he had could so easily slip away from him like grain through fingers. I crossed my arms, leaning back, a tiny smile curling around my lips, as if I were locking eyes with a man completely unaware of the storm brewing just beyond sight. "Welcome," I said, the velocity of the moment barely contained. "I hope you're ready for some surprising news. If you want to see how this wife destroys the traitor, subscribe now." I sat quietly at our kitchen table, the afternoon sunlight slicing through the window like a knife, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the warm air. The aroma of brewing coffee lingered, mixed with a hint of vanilla from the candle flickering softly by the sink. This was the spot where our lives had intertwined over the years, where dreams were shared, laughter echoed, and yet now felt like a stage for a sinister play. It was almost poetic, I thought, that the very place that once brought warmth bore witness to an unraveling tapestry of betrayal. "Are you still obsessing over that?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension, as he leaned against the doorframe, casually dismissive. His tailored suit looked so effortlessly sophisticated against the backdrop of my worn jeans and frayed sweater, a stark reminder of the worlds we inhabited, yet inhabited separately. I shifted uncomfortably, my fingers absently tracing the smooth surface of the table, the lacquer reflecting the glint of sunlight. "I was just looking at our accounts," I managed to reply, keeping the tremor from my voice, but my heart raced like a caged animal desperate for freedom. He scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. "You've always been such a worrywart," he quipped, his laughter cutting through me like barbed wire. "You of all people should know I'm in control of our finances." The words rolled off his tongue with the smoothness of silk, each syllable wrapped in a layer of deceit that I once found charming. But everything was shifting. The quiet whispers of doubt that had become unsettling companions in my mind were starting to take shape. Maybe I am overreacting, I thought, and felt the cold tendrils of uncertainty inching their way into my consciousness. But just as soon as the thought solidified, a flicker, a nagging impulse, challenged the haze clouding my judgment. Moments after he sauntered away, oblivious to the storm brewing within me, I fixed my gaze again on the laptop screen. The flickering blue light revealed patterns and threads woven through our years together, each click tapping out the rhythm of our lives, a cadence dripping with hidden truths. I had begun to meticulously gather pieces of evidence in the shape of bank statements, online purchase receipts, and the breadcrumbs of digital interactions. The scent of burnt toast wafted through the air from the kitchen, somehow echoing the dangerously charred remains of my trust. Each layer peeled back, revealed suspicions I had buried deep for too long. Our investment portfolio screamed that something was off. numbers peeling away like paint from an old haunted wall. I felt electrified, emboldened by a conviction that had been dormant, nestled in the back of my mind. I unraveled complex graphs and charts with the quiet precision of a surgeon. Each piece of data screamed betrayal louder than the last. His words reverberated through my mind. "You're just imagining things." I needed someone, a confidant, a sounding board who could help give weight to my doubts. As if summoned by the thought, my phone buzzed. An incoming message from Emma, my oldest friend, and the only ally I could trust. "I'm worried about you. Can we talk?" Relief flooded my veins like a cool wave. I responded quickly, heart racing. "Yes. Can you come over?" The thump of my pulse echoed as I cleaned up the mess of crumpled papers and empty coffee cups on the kitchen table, shoving the evidence into a nearby drawer. I wanted to create an image of normalcy, even if that normalcy was built on an unsteady foundation. The familiar sound of the doorbell broke my reverie. As Emma stepped into the house, the faint scent of her jasmine perfume enveloped me, grounding me while simultaneously riling a tempest of emotions. "What's going on?" she asked, her brows knitting together in concern as she stepped into the cluttered kitchen. The moment I saw her, my resolve coiled tighter, ready to spring forth, but the weight of my revelations felt unbearably heavy. "I just have this feeling. I think there's something wrong with our finances." The words tumbled out, raw and vulnerable, like petals shaken from a withering rose. Before I could unleash the depths of my fear, Emma took a seat across from me, her voice soothing and steady. "Tell me everything," she urged, with an intensity that made the air crackle around us. Even with the weight of my fears hanging in the air, comfort radiated from her presence. As I poured out my suspicions, my uncertainty coalesced into something firmer. Emma listened intently, her gaze unwavering, the corners of her mouth tightening into a frown as I recounted the unfurling of my suspicions. "He drains our accounts, Emma. I just have this gut feeling that he's involved with someone else. Someone young," I confessed, choking on the bitter taste of validation. "And I've been feeding him her lifeline for years." Her eyes widened slightly, and I noted the way her fingers gripped the edge of the table, as though her body were rejecting the surface of my reality. "You deserve better than this, honey." She leaned forward, dropping her voice to a whisper. "You know that, right?" The flutter of doubt continued to dance in my chest, but I held her gaze. "I don't know what to do. Let's get proactive. Show me what you have." As I opened the drawer filled with documents, a fresh wave of exhilaration surged through me, buoying my spirit. The smell of old paper wafted into the air, blending with the scent of a fading candle. I started printing the bank statements, the rustle of the printer filtering through our conversation, each page crumpling into my hands like confessions. "I don't think you're crazy, and neither does my lawyer. I've talked to him about this. I think you need to gather more evidence." Her tone was firm, and certainty surged through me. I could feel resolve blooming anew. I opened the scrolling emails, revealing vague threats peppered with his casual tone of accolades that now all felt hollow. For the next few hours, we spent poring over documents. The click-clack of computer keys punctuated the silence as Emma guided me through what was essential. Together, we pieced the fragments of deceit into a mosaic of truth. I opened an old social media account, the digital footprint revealing snippets of messages I had saved over the years, sentiments that now rolled off like stale breadcrumbs littering the floor of our lives. I still froze at the thought of confronting him, imagining his laughter morphing into sinister gasps of daggers aimed straight at my heart. "He'll probably call me crazy again," I whispered, bitterness thickening as it left my lips. Emma offered me a steady gaze, shaking her head lightly. "The fact that he tries to dismiss you like that means he's scared. Remember that." As the evening wrapped around us like a woven shawl, the sting of betrayal dissipated, softened by camaraderie. By the time twilight descended upon the kitchen, my pulse felt steady and strong. But there was still one more element I needed: the financial advisor I had been speaking to discreetly. As I set out the next day, the afternoon light poured through the car window, welcoming me like a warm embrace. The air felt electric, each breath serving as an affirmation that I was no longer fleeing. I was moving forward. The scent of fresh asphalt permeated the air as I arrived at my financial advisor's office, the polished brass door glinting in the sun, the distinct blend of citrus and coffee wafted in from the office, a comforting backdrop to the conversation ahead. Flipping through spreadsheets, Tim, My advisor was cautious in his demeanor, incredulous as I slowly laid out my findings, from bank draft discrepancies to vehicle registrations in others' names. "Whatever he's hiding must be serious if he's manipulating things this way," he said, leaning back in his chair, considering my receipts with a furrowed brow. "I'm convinced he's swindling our funds," I pressed on, my spine straightening, channeling the strong resolve I had nurtured with Emma's camaraderie. "I want to stop him before he rats me out, or worse, tries to run away." Tim's eyes softened with understanding, each click of his mouse punctuating the air. "We'll need to strategize carefully. You're not just fighting for finances, you're fighting for your sense of self. But I think you'll win." With every word exchanged, I felt all at once validated in my resolve and empowered by the coal fueled within my gut. I was no longer alone in this war, the line between victim and victor slowly becoming clearer. I would not be defined by his betrayals. I would be the hunter while he played the hunted. With the glimmer of hope illuminating the corners of my mind, I stepped outside, the air invigorating, a pungent reminder that I was alive, and undeniably a force to be reckoned with. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, setting the sky ablaze, a fire ignited deep within me. The war was brewing, a silent one, cloaked in anticipation, yet the first shot had just been fired. The day arrived like a dark cloud gathering overhead, a dread-filled anticipation surging through me as I prepped for the grand unveiling of my plans. The gala was meticulously designed, resplendent in a ballroom drenched in opulence, adorned with shimmering chandeliers that dripped light like golden rain over soft pastel table linens. The air was thick with the scent of freshly arranged orchids mixed with the sweetness of chocolate fountains wafting through the room. It was the kind of evening where smiles danced on lips, laughter cascaded from every corner, and yet, beneath the surface, a tempest brewed, a carefully hidden vendetta waiting to explode in a symphony of revenge. My heart thrummed steadily beneath the elegant layers of my midnight blue gown, its rich fabric hugging my every curve while inviting whispers of the past to brush against my skin. Oh, how the irony unfolded. This jubilant affair was meant to celebrate my husband's latest business success, a facade cloaked in prestige to leave everyone raving about him. Yet tonight, I would be the one orchestrating his destruction. Guests swirled around me like colorful marionettes, their laughter like tinkling bells, eyes sparkling with delight, a senseless joy echoing through the hall, while my thoughts spiraled deeper into darkness. Every smile they offered felt like fuel for the fire burning within me. They had no idea what was about to unravel tonight. Their celebration was about to shift from blissful unity to absolute chaos. I took a deep breath, inhaling the intoxicating melange of scents. The savory notes of rosemary and sea salt mingled with the sweet backdrop of fresh pastries, wrapping around me like velvet. Yet, behind this curtain of elegance, my pulse quickened, moving to the cadence of my approaching revelation. As I walked from table to table, exchanging pleasantries, I caught a glimpse of him, a creature of arrogance, so full of himself as he held court among the gathered throng. He was ebullient, the embodiment of casual charm, with his golden hair slightly tousled and that devil-may-care smile resting effortlessly on his lips. Yet, as I watched him bask in their applause, my heart hardened. The truth writhed within me, clawing for release, hungry to expose him before all the witnesses to our years together. When the time finally arrived, I stepped up to the microphone, the spotlight slicing through the dimmed glow of conversation. It flickered brightly on my poised frame, illuminating the glacial calm upon my face. Guests turned their collective gaze towards me, their expressions filled with genuine surprise. I savored it for just a moment. The tranquility of anticipation before the storm. This was my moment. Thank you all for joining us tonight, for celebrating Mark's achievements. I began, my voice smooth as silken honey, each word draping itself across the crowd, as if to wrap them in a warm embrace. As his loyal partner for over 4 decades, I've relished in every moment of our journey together. The struggles, the victories, and of course, the interesting choices that come with him leading our life. Laughter bubbled from the audience, but I noticed it withered at the edges like fading petals. It was time to drop the curtain. Anxiety fluttered from my chest, replaced by a fierce determination. Tonight I have something important to share, not just about Mark's professional milestones, but about the very foundation of our lives. With that statement, the atmosphere shifted. It grew thick with tension, a palpable hum rising from the audience as a chorus of whispers began weaving through the air. I think we all know that behind every successful man stands a supportive partner. The late nights, the lonely dinners, the hard work. But you see, as I nurtured this man's dreams, he took the opportunity to betray not just our life's work, but also our one true blessing, each other. I let my words hang like a heavy dew in the air, each heavy syllable a blade sharpened for the single purpose of severing bonds. I could see the first flickers of confusion in the audience. The crowd was piecing together the architecture of my swirling revelation. Tonight, I have brought evidence of his betrayal. The ink-slick stack of documents sat waiting at the edge of the table, a silent army of proof standing poised and ready for action. As I began to unveil each page, the air sharpened effortlessly. The weight of reality came flooding in. Corroborations, texts, transaction histories that painted a damning portrait of deceit. The crowd's atmosphere pulsed with disbelief and shock. I spoke steady, clear, watching as faces shifted from jovial to stone cold, suddenly ashen as they absorbed the crumbling truth. I discovered that he siphoned funds from our retirement accounts, over 40 years of mutual dreams sacrificed on the altar of a fleeting affair. Gasps echoed against the opulent walls, reverberating with indignation. My husband's previously self-assured demeanor faltered. I caught the way his skin paled to a shade resembling freshly fallen snow. The sparkle in his eyes darkened as the realization dawned. A thief, caught in the act. Why? Just for a 20-year-old who dances with him under the stars, belittling the very essence of our bond. Ladies, do not mistake my attempts at loyalty as weakness. Betrayal is a dagger thrust into one's heart by someone promised to shelter it. A murmur swept through the audience, voices lacing with shock, an energy pulsing through as the weight of my words settled. Then came the sound of a chair skidding back, the contemptible figure rising from among the seated body, a mixture of fury and anguish boiling within him. "Stop this madness," Mark barked, his voice shaking as he searched for footing amidst the crumbling facade he had carefully constructed. "You don't have proof! This is ridiculous! You will pay for this!" But no, tonight was not his. The crowd was already packed with murmured rumblings of disdain, outrage brewing as though the floodgates of judgment had finally burst open. "How could you do this?" one voice cried from the front, laden with indignation. "After all she has done for you, you've thrown away your life together for her?" I relished the involuntary response erupting from those supportive individuals, the very ones I had once seen as mere decorations around our fellowship. "She didn't know," came another voice, laced with sympathy. It was a chorus of disgruntled attendees, snaking through the once celebratory hall, turning on him like hunters cornering their prey. "Didn't know?" I echoed, voice like a whip snapping through the air, punctuating my conviction. "I have the texts, receipts, everything leading back to every falsified venture." "You think you can charm your way out of this?" I turned and faced him completely. Regret and fury melded into an unabashed grin. My steady gaze locked onto his panicked expression, shifts reflected within glimmering eyes that had once promised so much warmth. "These documents showcase your greed, your deceit. You wanted to build an empire on the ashes of our lives, and I'm here to say enough." There was something particularly delicious about watching his bravado crumble, shattered like unwatched glass, and my heart fluttered with satisfaction. The microphone crackled as I continued. If I didn't act now, I fear the next act of betrayal would come crashing through the door with desperation too. "Oh, and I even love how you felt safe enough to hold on to your little escapade, thinking you could travel without worries. I've had your assets frozen since our last meeting, love." Confusion flooded his features. The world was spiraling away from him like driftwood on an unyielding tide. The shimmering luster of his confidence dulled to a muted desperation as he scanned his audience, recognition creeping into his expression like shadows at dusk. The collective silence exploded, murmurs awash with realization darting like fireflies through the space. I could feel every pair of eyes honing in on him with palpable anticipation, awaiting the culmination of betrayal. The full weight of my revelation crashed over him, a wave of destruction that tore through the vestiges of his pride, rendering him vulnerable before the laughter and scorn of our peers. "Would you have waited this long?" I spoke, turning toward the audience, a bewitching glimmer of authority igniting in my chest. The power of knowing one's truth sometimes lies not in whispering it quietly into the void, but in raising our voices for the world to hear. The crowd's applause swelled, a tempest of disdain harmonizing with my fierce validation, fervent voices igniting a bond of solidarity among those present. Tonight was mine. I had reclaimed my power, through every shred of deceit rolled into proof. I would stand tall, shoulder to shoulder, with women who had endured betrayals, trampling every memory of suffering left standing, a phoenix emerging from the wreckage of sorrow, reborn in the flames of vengeance. This was only the beginning, and I could hardly wait for what was to come. As I stood before my freshly painted office walls, a chill danced through the air, tinged with the scent of oil-based paint still settling into the corners. 6 months had passed since the night I raised my voice in defiance, peeling away layers of betrayal to reveal raw truths that had long simmered beneath the surface. 6 months of restlessness, self-discovery, and a metamorphosis fueled by the fire of betrayal. The polished oak desk gleamed under the sun filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. I could hear the city buzz, the distant sound of traffic mingling with laughter beneath, a backdrop to my unshackled freedom. What had once been a home filled with shadows now overflowed with radiant light, and I reveled in it. My sense of peace, long buried, resurfaced, a wildflower breaking through cracked concrete. That night, among the chaos of my husband's exposure, I had vowed to reclaim my life from the ruins he intended to leave behind. I had armed myself with determination, ready to wrestle fate directly, but the outcome had been far sweeter than I ever envisioned. Mark's life, once so grand, had crumbled like dry leaves caught in the autumn wind. 6 months of preparations had left their mark, not just on me, but solemnly etched upon him. He had gone from the once sought-after businessman to a pariah in our society. A cautionary tale lingered in whispered conversations beneath the polished boardroom tables. His assets, once glistening under the sun like precious gold, lay frozen as evidence of his treachery unfolded at every turn. The taste of that sweet, simmering justice lingered upon my tongue like dark chocolate, a rich flavor, velvety smooth, filling every void with satisfaction. Within weeks following the gala, the reality of his actions became public, leading to fervent investigations, battered reputations, and ultimately, a crash landing of his extravagant lifestyle. I received snippets, a blend of hearsay and confirmation from sources still bound to our past, that revealed the extent of his downfall. Mark had drifted between shame, isolation, and an unraveled identity. The jokes that had once fueled his ego fell silent when everyone began to realize how they had been played for fools. Wedding invitations had shifted to bulletins filled with headlines that echoed like sirens, crying out warnings against misplaced trust. His former partners, once eager to bask in the palpable glow of his perceived success, now whispered murmurs of his greed behind turned backs. As the scent of desperation soaked into his very fabric, I started to feel a tremor of satisfaction radiating from that newfound freedom. The air had shifted around me, saturating me with a sense of retribution unparalleled in its richness. I recall the day Mark's world began to fold beneath him. It was torridly humid, the sun smothering everything in a haze of heat. I watched as friends turned to shadows. They quickly evaporated once the money dried up, revealing a stark facade that clustered around him. The woman, the girl whose laughter had once danced around our shared spaces, who donned my sapphire like it was a new birthright. She had flown away like an understudy, abandoning a sinking ship desperate for air. She had lingered just long enough to reap the benefits, but once the accounts were stripped bare and the intrigue faded, she vanished into thin air, a whisper amongst the chaos she helped orchestrate. I still remember the smell of his cologne wafting through the air as I caught a glimpse of him at the cafe, frail and ghostly in his tailored clothes that no longer fit right, mingling among the lowest of the low, encased in bills he could hardly afford. I glanced away, tasting bitterness mixed with newfound freedom. Mark now worked at a portion of his former life, slinging overpriced espresso in a trendy coffee shop filled with oblivious university students, their fresh ambition blending seamlessly with the rich aroma of roasted beans. I could see him from my table, his posture stooped, the soft gloss of sunlight streaming through the glass between us, only highlighting the lines etched upon his face. There was a kind of poetic justice in watching him pour lattes when he had once poured over boardroom plans, plotting financial domination. As I leaned back, taking a sip of my new life, I felt the warmth spread like a summer afternoon, ebbing away memories of doubt and betrayal. There, in that moment, I felt reborn, a phoenix rising among the ashes, while he stood at the bottom of his self-made mountain, fumbling through receipts of broken dreams, playing the role of a man lost and diminished. I had emerged not just as a survivor, but as a victor. Weeks turned into months, and soon, Mark's fate twisted beyond mere humiliation into a swell of despair. Underneath the darkest clouds of consequence, he would come to understand the depth of his arrogance. I heard through the grapevine that he faced a looming lawsuit for embezzlement, an echo of sinister consequence intertwining with the glossy page of life he had tried to create. The betrayal had circled back, unraveling threads woven through the lives he thought he had secured through manipulation. The hollow laughs of patrons echoing through the cafe, the clinking of cups, and the grinding of beans would hardly mask the heartbreak brewing behind those painted smiles. I knew, and felt, he had lost not just his assets, but the essence of who he had once been. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of my revelations, life elevated me to places I never dared to dream possible. A whirlwind of opportunity unveiled itself, my newfound freedom resonating with every interaction, transaction, and moment. I had unfurled a fierce resolve woven from tenacity and sprinkled with lavish doses of self-love, a materialistic affirmation of freedom. Each day, I poured time and energy into my passions, the kaleidoscope of life shifting vibrantly as I began to re-inhabit my world. I could smell the fresh paint scrawled on canvases as they lined my studio, the air heavy with the scent of inspiration, and friends pivoted toward admiration rather than pity. There was an audacity to live out loud that replaced the muted tones of infidelity, and I thrived within that glow. Gone were the days wrapped in the shadow of his expectations. I had transformed, shedding remnants of insecurity like a snake sloughing off its skin. The weave of my existence glimmered more vividly as I forged new connections and cultivated dreams only I could unlock. The tangled web of deceit had opened myriad doors through its eventual downfall. I had become richer in every sense. Not just financially, though my portfolio flourished through careful investments, now driven by acumen honed through hard-fought lessons. My earthly treasures expanded, but so too did my spirit, grounded in new friendships and adventures that ignited the very core of who I was. I felt prettier, inside and out, a vibrancy that flourished in hues my former self could scarcely comprehend. And in those quiet moments, the peaceful solitude within microwave-reheated dinners faded into the background, replaced by raucous laughter in homes filled with comfort and camaraderie, an abundance of love that shook off the residue of sorrow. So, here I am standing on the precipice of the future, eyes wide with wonder. The world spins electric, painted in colors I choose to embrace rather than endure. And as I glance out the window, the urban skyline twinkling like a constellation of possibilities, I can't help but feel the anticipation of tales yet to come. But Mark's, though, I can't help but wonder how long it'll take him to sink further, or whether he'll eventually crawl back into my life beneath layers of desperation, begging for redemption. You simply have to hold on tight for the next round of chaos, the next revelation waiting to unfold. Mark may not be the last to learn the hard way, and I can't deny the smirk that dances at the corners of my lips at the mere thought of it. If you think this adventure was wild, just wait until you hear what happened next. The story only grows richer from here.